Welcome to Upticks. I'm Jake Falcon, the founder of Falcon Wealth Advisors and your host for Upticks. Today is our 66th episode, working with the CFP November 19 edition. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
You reminded me, this would be our 9th episode in between having you. I can't believe we've done that many. What have you been doing?
Working away, trying to catch back up on everything.
Gotcha. So for our listeners tuning in, or if you're watching this on YouTube, James is our office certified financial planner, which is a very intense planning designation that he achieved earlier this year. And the reason you're back on the show is that occasionally we're going to bring you on and we want to take a little bit deeper dives into educating our audience about some of the tools that we use when we're crafting financial plans for our clients.
Perfect. Sounds good.
This morning before the show, you and I talked, and we wanted to talk about educational planning for our clients' children or your grandchildren.
Correct. Yep.
So why don't we kick it off with probably one of the most widely known plans, which is something called a 529 plan. Why don't you kind of give a loose definition of what that is and explain how they work?
So a 529 plan is a qualified tuition program that is state sponsored. So each state has their own 529 plan that they sponsor. And in Missouri, it's Missouri Most, and in Kansas, it's Learning Quest. Mm-hmm. And each one of them sponsor it. You're allowed to make contributions to the 529 for a specific beneficiary. And if the distributions come out of the 529 to pay for qualified expenses for educational expenses, then you're able to pull the money out tax-free. So the money goes in, you get a deduction for the state level, not the federal level, but from there you're able to invest the funds over time to get growth on it, take the distributions out, and you get them tax-free.
Very nice. So people that should be using this are who? People that have young children, old children, grandchildren, no children? Who should be using these plans?
Really, if you have, you can actually set up the account for yourself to be the beneficiary. So really anyone that you feel within your kind of family, legal family, so whether that be stepbrothers would be included in that, mm-hmm. any adopted kids, that would be a part of that legal family entity. But anyone that you feel is going to go to K through 12 school or secondary school, so college, trade school, religious school, anything along those lines. Anyone that's going to those could benefit from the 529 plan.
Gotcha. So theoretically, even if you're planning on having children, you could set one of these up now for yourself, and then one day transfer it to your unborn child.
Correct. Once they have a social security number and a birth date,
right,
then you'd be able to transfer the beneficiary ownership to them. The benefit of the 529 plan is there is no penalty to switching the beneficiaries, and you can switch them as many times as you want in a given year. So you could, if you had multiple kids going to college in 1 year, you could still only have one 529 plan and change the beneficiary
around based on who needed the money.
At what time, exactly, yes.
Gotcha. And it can be used for tuition, so of private school when they're below college age, right?
Right. But the IRS has actually capped that spending to $10,000 a year for K through 12.
So what about Pembroke High School, a school here in Kansas City? It's a good private school. What is their tuition? Do you know what it currently is? Is it $12,000 or $20,000?
I would say it's probably closer to the 20, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so let's say it's around 20. So you're saying if you have money in this 529, you're sending your child to Pembroke Hill High School, right, you can take $10,000 out of the 529, mm-hmm. and then the other $10,000 you would pay with other funds. But you can use it for high school, which is a relatively new option.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
is that maybe just a year or two old?
Yes, I think it came in around the same time that the jobs or the tax.
Right, so it's been maybe 1 or 2 years.
Yep.
Now, also, of course, they don't have to go to a private university. So if they go to any public university, they can certainly use that for tuition as well.
Yes, any higher education, so anything above and beyond high school, the 529 does allow for. Trade schools are included in that as well.
Oh, very good. So if if your grandson, so it could be your grandchild too, right?
Correct, yes.
So if your grandson wants to go to HVAC school and learn a trade, this can cover that tuition as well.
Correct.
And the reason the individuals should be using is the big reason is that state tax deduction. Right. So do you know what the limits are?
The tax deduction limit is $6,000 per parent. So if two parents are making the contribution to their child, they could get a maximum of $12,000 a year.
Is that Kansas, Missouri? Is it about the
Both.
same? Okay,
Both.
perfect. So if you live in either of those states, you do get some, and it'll vary by state. So if you're watching this and you live in, Montana or New York or California or wherever, it's going to vary. So you definitely want to check and double check that state tax code. But the idea is that you put money into this fund, you lower your state income taxes, and then the money grows tax free as long as you use it for one of these qualifying expenses. Now, now let's say that your child gets a full ride and they don't need any of the money. Well, then what happens? Do you just lose the money?
No, you can switch the beneficiary. So if you wanted to go to your local community college and take a fun course, something that you might be interested in, you could switch it to yourself or switch it to your wife. Really anything is optional above and beyond that.
But what if everybody's educated?
Nobody wants to do anything.
Right, then what happens?
Then at that point you would be still eligible to take the funds out, but you would owe taxes and a penalty from that. But
you could still theoretically get your money back to some level.
My thinking there would be just move it to your kid that has the college or who's got the full ride, and then eventually if they have children, you have a 529 set up for them already.
Gotcha. So it can go down generationally, again, as long as it's in your family lines here.
And you could switch it to somebody not in your family line, but there will be a penalty for doing that because now it's in somebody else's family line. But as long as you're keeping it within your family line, then there are no penalties for switching the beneficiaries.
Now, how expensive are these things to open up? I mean, do you have to have thousands of dollars to start one of these?
No. I know the Missouri Most and the Learning Quest
in Kansas
very well. And for those, there are no minimum requirements to opening the account. You just open the account, but you do have to fund it, but there is no minimum requirement for the funding.
So you can put like $100 in there?
$100, start there.
Gotcha. And at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we typically recommend that you actually don't go through an advisor to actually establish the fund. So we'll certainly guide our clients and help them get everything set up and even give them some advice on which funds to use within the plan. But if you use an intermediary like a financial advisor, you'll pay the advisor some sort of commission typically, and the 529 company fee. And in our opinion, you don't need to be paying two people because really, once you get the fund established, you're familiar with the investment options. It's kind of like a 401k where there's no reason to be paying two fees in there. Now, what types of investments are normally available, at least in Missouri and Kansas? Like, can you buy stocks? Can you buy?
Usually they're just mutual funds or exchange traded funds that are a part or the fund options that you have. And it's just like you said, a 401k, you get a set menu of options. The benefits about a 529 plan are kind of like the retirement date funds. So you can actually set a specific age-based course. So you say my child is, just born, and they'll be more aggressive because you have that more time frame to grow the funds. And then as the child gets closer to needing the funds for higher educational purposes, they'll lower that risk down for you.
Makes sense.
The big thing is if you want to use it for K through 12, are you going to still use that age-based track? Because it might be too aggressive if you're about to take out money to help pay for tuitional purposes.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So again, that's where working with an advisor as far as picking those funds would make sense. But again, our argument is because it's a relatively small piece of the overall picture, you shouldn't be paying the advisor a commission to do that because that's just going to eat into the whole benefit.
Yeah, it ends up nickeling and diming the client, and ultimately it's used for your kid, and you don't want to have to pay additional fees when you don't have to.
Yeah. Now, some of our clients will say, you know what, I get it, but literally I don't want to have to do anything. So we'll certainly do that for them. But again, we really don't like to do it. I mean, we'll help you get it set up and kind of cut us out of that commission structure, because again, with our fiduciary mindset, we don't really want to be charging commissions if we can avoid it in there. We want to have some plans that are grandfathered in, but ideally the new plans that we're setting up, we don't want to charge on that because it's just something as part of our services that will help you set up. Very good. Now, I know there's another type of vehicle out there that you might not get the same state tax benefit, but why don't you explain what that works? And that's called a Uniform Trust for Minors account, or commonly referred to a UTMA.
So a Uniform Trust for Minor account is essentially an after-tax savings account for a minor child that you are eligible to give funds to that child without the child having to pay taxes on anything. So it's a tax-free savings vehicle for the child. The big differences between the two accounts, I would say, though, is once the child turns of age, whether that be 18 or 21, depending on the state, the funds within that UTMA actually become the child's. So at that point, it can be used for anything. It doesn't have to be used for educational purposes. So if they want to pull out all the funds and go buy a new car or something like that, completely in their right to do that.
And it's my understanding also that if you're a little worried about your 21-year-old child or 18-year-old child making a rash decision, you can actually empty the account out prior to them turning of age, as long as the money is spent for their benefit.
Correct.
But that's a pretty loose term, right? So could you literally just go buy them clothes or a computer or pay rent or whatever they need, as long as it's for their benefit, is my understanding. Is that right?
That's the way I understand it as well. Usually it's something that would be above and beyond kind of the normal means, from my understanding. So something like clothes probably wouldn't fall under the definition there, but something like a new computer or a new car, something that would actually, progress them and move them forward.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. And so the other kicker, though, is by you putting money in this plan, you don't get any state tax benefit, right? So there's more flexibility, but it's not really helping you out tax-wise.
Correct. There is no tax benefit for it, but the contribution amounts actually per year are the same between the 529 and the UTMA. Both of them allow for up to $15,000 per year per person. So a parent would get 15, the other parent would get another 15.
Gotcha.
So 30 per year could go both into the 529 and the UTMA. The benefit of the 529 is that you get the state tax deduction on that.
Gotcha. That makes good sense. And so what about investment vehicles within the UTMA? Do you have to do you have a menu of funds to choose from, or how does that look?
Depending on probably where you open it, you might, but if we open one here at Charles Schwab, everything's open. So stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. I know we just do stocks and bonds in the account, but really the door is open for a UTMA.
Perfect. So that is something that we would help manage for our clients, because we're not going to a third party to administer it. It's literally an account that we open with Charles Schwab, our custodian, and then we advise and pick the investments and manage that. Whereas with the 529, that's held at another investment company.
It's held at the state.
Yeah, the state. And they typically will have a mutual fund company or some sort of investment company sponsoring that or helping with that investment choice.
Correct.
Very good. So today we've learned about two unique savings plans for children. So we got the 529. If you need help with your state income taxes, that could be a good vehicle to lower some of that and also help out your children or grandchildren. Or if you just want to put some money aside, say, hey, and again, maybe I didn't get into this, there is no minimum with us, at least for the UTMA either, right?
Correct.
So if you say, hey, I want to give, I want to give my grandchild $100 and I want to show them how to invest and how to pick stocks, because I know you guys do that, then that's something we certainly can help you with and get that established and going as well.
One last point I'd like to make on the differences between the two. One of the big things right now in terms of educational planning actually is student loan financing. So a lot of that big terminology comes around that FAFSA that people have to fill out. Well, if you do a UTMA for your child, the UTMA is included as the child's assets, while the 529 isn't. It's included as the parents'. And when doing the FAFSA calculation, the government looks at 20% of the calculation is actually the student's assets and or the
so
child's
that hurts
assets.
their ability to get
Yes.
lending if they have a UTMA.
UTMA, exactly.
Interesting, I
It
didn't
would
know that.
actually, they'd get a lower amount from the government, but if it's in a 529, it's included as the parents' assets, which is only 5.6%, so it doesn't impact them as much.
Okay, that's good advice. I didn't know that. So again, if your child or grandchild is going to be filling out that FAFSA form, or you think they potentially could need to, obviously you're not going to know if a 1-year-old is going to need that or not.
Right.
529 might be a better route to go if you know they're going to need some sort of lending.
Right.
That's a good point. I didn't know that. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's why you're the CFP.
Exactly.
So, very good. Well, thanks, sir. Thanks for sharing that information. And as always, as you're watching our shows, if it's something pops in your mind and you want us to address a question on Upticks, we're happy to do that. And James is certainly available to our clients if they have deeper planning questions, because again, that's a big role that you're playing on our team.
Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So now for a fun topic, I want to do the Falcon Wealth Advisors sponsored Bird of Prey lightning round.
All right, I'm excited.
You did a great job last time. I've got an abbreviated version that I've been asking everybody.
Okay.
So it's only 5 questions.
I'm ready.
But again, there is no prize to participate. But we're also not going to hold you to your answers. So feel free and just say what comes to mind.
Got it.
And we'll go from there.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we'll go ahead and start the clock. And here we go. So I was asking everybody who was going to win the World Series, but since that is
The
now
Nationals.
passed, good answer. So the Nationals won the World Series. So now I want to ask you who's going to win the Super Bowl now that we're in football season here. I know you're not a huge.
If Mahomes gets healthy, I got to say the Chiefs.
All right, going for the Chiefs. So that parlays into question number 2 is what are the Chiefs' record going to be this year?
I say they lose 2 more games.
So I think
this
they've
season.
lost 3 as of the recording of this show. So you think they're going to finish maybe 11-5?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. So all right. So
Do they play 16 games in a regular season?
They do.
I'll go 10-6.
10-6. All right.
10-6.
All right. Very good.
And they clinch the AFC.
All right. So they win the AFC West.
West, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they win their division 10-6.
And I think this year we get our revenge on the Patriots in the.
You think we go to the Super Bowl? Or you think we're going to win it?
Well, I think we're going to win it, so I got to think we beat the Patriots.
All right. Well, I hope you're right. Okay, so now fall is upon us. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what is your favorite season of the year? So what's your favorite time of year? Is it fall? Is it spring? Is it summer? Is it winter?
I like them all personally. I love fall in the fact that it's that time of year where you can go outside in a light coat, sweater weather, as they say.
Right.
And personally, my favorite time of the year because of that is because of the lights at the plaza.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I think when those lights are on, it's the most beautiful time of the year to be in Kansas City, especially if you get that like light dusting of snow like we just had right over those lights. There's nothing more beautiful
So
than
you
that.
like going down to the plaza in the winter
Yep.
and seeing the lights on and doing some shopping or
Yes,
walking around?
that's where I do my Christmas shopping most times, is in the
Nice.
plaza.
Very good. I forgot about that. That's a good point.
Thank you.
What about, there's been a lot of talk on the media lately of a next recession. When do you think that'll happen? The numbers have been good.
Yeah, I guess eventually it's bound to happen. I can't predict the future, so I don't want to begin to try to even guess. But if I did, I would say maybe 2021.
Okay.
I think we can push through another year, get through the election, and then see what kind of happens from there.
Okay. And then my last question for you, and this doesn't have to be financially related, is what is the best piece of advice, or maybe not the best, but a really, really good piece of advice that comes to mind that stuck with you throughout your life?
In terms of finance?
Any advice. What's a good piece of advice that you've received?
I think the biggest thing is life goes on. So if you fail, get up, do it again. If you succeed, relish in that, but know that tomorrow's a new day. And
That's good.
No matter what life throws at you, and if you feel like tomorrow isn't going to happen, it will. And you got to just keep that positive mindset. stay positive, stay happy, find that light, and drive forward.
Very good. Yeah, that's a big one. Is this too shall pass, right? That's
Yep.
what that sounds like.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
thanks
having me
playing
back on. Yeah.
the Bird of Prey Lightning Round, sponsored by Falcon Wealth Advisors.
Thank you very much.
So thank you again. So that's all the time that we have for today's show. But thanks again, James, for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us today. And for our listeners and our audience, we will be having James on more often now. Again, he's our certified financial planner. He's the only one on Falcon Wealth Advisors team. And so he takes those deep dives into some of those intricate topics on planning and helps us make sure that we're giving good advice to our clients. So thank you.
Yep, thank you
for that. And if you are watching this on YouTube or listening to us on iTunes, we'd love a thumbs up or a 5 stars. Certainly you can find us out there on all the social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm out there on Twitter. If you're on Twitter at Jake Falcon CRPC. And James, how do you prefer to be connected with?
Feel free to give me a call, send me an email. It's the easiest ways to get in contact with me.
Fantastic. And then again, thank you all for watching, and we hope you have a great week.